And here we are at Sutra 1.4. This is the fourth sutra in chapter 1 of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Let me go ahead and say it, and then we'll discuss it a little bit. And this one should be pretty quick today. Vritti sarupyam ittaratra. All right, man, I love this stuff. How y'all feeling? Hopefully you're feeling pretty good. All right, like I said, this is going to be a pretty short one. So buckle your seatbelt and hold on to your hat. All right, so there are no new pronunciations to introduce for this one, but I will call your attention to the R with a dot. If you recall in Sutra 1.2, we introduced this R with a dot, and it's pronounced R, like rig or rip, right? So it's very simple, R, just R. So that's vritti, right? And that goes back to Sutra 1.2. It's the same word, right? So we want to start to identify these words when we can, so that when we see this stuff written in the transliterated Sanskrit or Devanagari, we know what we're talking about. We're not just, I don't want us to chant words without knowing what they mean. I'm totally not with that. I'm just not. I like to know what the words mean coming out of my mouth. So anyway, notice the vertical line above the I and the horizontal line below the A. I have arrows pointing at both of those. Remember, these are our special marks, our swaras, that let us know whether to chant a high or low note. If you don't see one of those marks, then it's considered the middle note or the reference note. Okay? Now, where you don't see it, like in that first word, vritti sarupyam, that's going to be pretty steady. There's no fluctuation. We're not going to be going high with the note or low with the note. It's just all same tone, right? So it's pretty steady. And then we'll go high with the I, come back down to the middle with the TA, and then go low with the Ra, right? So I want to give you a chance to listen along as you follow along with your eyes. Listen to my voice, so that you can see when we go high and when we go low, and just kind of just embody that. Just hold on to that feeling as I say it and as you hear it, so that when you repeat it, you can kind of pick up on the same rhythm and melody, okay? So here I'm going to say it one more time, or a couple more times, to give you a chance to listen along as you follow with your eyes. Vritti sarupyam ittaratra. Can you hear that high and that low? All right, I'm gonna do it one more time. Vritti sarupyam ittaratra. All right, practice that a few times on your own. But for now, take a moment to write this down in your notes. Now, if you haven't had a chance to download the document that I provided for you that has space for you to write down these swaras, then go ahead and download that so that you have some organized notes. Because I also provide space for you to write the word for word translations of this stuff, and then a place for you to write down what you think this means, how you would word this in your own words. Because I want us to all embody this stuff, become the book. That's why we chant it. And we're going to memorize this stuff. Believe it or not, man, this stuff starts to stick. Because people talk about muscle memory. I'm like, it's not muscle memory. It's cellular memory. The cells, every cell in our body is conscious. So we're talking about our consciousness. And as we chant this stuff, something about that vibration, it seeps into the consciousness of our cells, man. I'm like right now, I can chant the whole chapter 1 and chapter 2. And I mean, those are the most practical ones and the ones that I teach. We'll probably, talk about chapters 3 and 4 later on, but those are more advanced. Everything in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras is very organized and ordered the way it's ordered for a reason. And there's no sense in people going to chapters 3 and 4 if they haven't really established 1 and 2, right? 1 being the most important. I mean, you gotta have chapter 1 to really understand what yoga is all about. And then chapter 2 is like, okay, now what do I do? And it tells you what action to carry out. I mean, to the letter. And then we can talk about 3 and 4. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Let me say it one more time. Vritti sarupyam ittaratra. All right, let's talk about what these words mean. Vritti. Vritti, this is the same one from Sutra 1.2, like I mentioned, and it just means the activities of the mind, patternings, fluctuations, modifications. Those are some of the ways you'll hear other people describe that. But that's the literal Sanskrit translation. I like to think of vrittis as the winds of the mind. And I don't know that there's anything out there that says that that's what they are, although vritti literally translates as whirlpool. And I know whirlpools are related to wind, right? It's just when you study this stuff for so long, you start to think of this, with your own analogies, which is what I want us to do. But we have to know what the words mean before the analogy can start to take place and start to form within us in our own unique way based on the way we see things, right? But vritti, if they're winds of the mind, like I like to think of them, and I think I talked about this analogy before. Think of a lagoon or a lake or a pond when the air is completely still. The surface of the water is also still, meaning that when you look into the surface of the water, it forms a perfect mirror that you can look into and see an accurate, undistorted reflection of yourself. That's who you truly are. When wind starts to pick up, ripples start to form, distorting the image that you would see looking into that mirror or that reflected image of yourself, right? That's why we want to still the mind. But that's what vritti is to me. That's how I think of it. What does sarupyam mean? Well, if you remember from the previous sutra, 1.3, we were introduced to the word swarupe. Now listen how similar these sound. They are very related, right? You can hear the roop, right, in both of them. But what does this mean? It means identification, conformity, likeness, closeness, nearness, right? Like identification with those activities. I mean, that's what that whole phrase, vritti sarupyam, identification with the activities of the mind, right? The patternings, the fluctuations. And ittaratra, what does that mean? It means otherwise. So you got to go back to the previous two sutras, right? We got Sutra 1.2, chitta vritti nirodhaha. That's talking about yoga, right? Yogaha chitta vritti nirodhaha. And then Sutra 1.3, tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. So otherwise, when those two sutras are not established, then there's that activities, then there's identification with the activities of the mind, right? Because we have to remember, when it says otherwise right here, it's saying when those two things are not in place. And it's really just one thing, right? Going back to Sutra 1.2, that's what yoga is. Yoga is when all the activities of the mind are completely still. 1.3 just says then, meaning when the activities of the mind are completely still, the seer abides in its own form. Now, this sutra is saying otherwise, or at other times when that's not happening, then there's identification with the activities of the mind. We think we are our thoughts, right? We think we are a school teacher or a gas station attendant or a weightlifter or a yoga instructor, or we think we're a lot of things. We call ourselves a lot of names, but we're none of those. Like, I'm a yoga instructor. Well, back up. I'm certified to work as a yoga instructor, but I'm not a yoga instructor. I'm so much more than that. And that's what I want to get in touch with. I want to recognize that I'm not these things I call myself. I'm not a father. I'm not a husband, but I am in the role of a father and a husband. I play those roles, right? But I'm a human being, first and foremost. And there's a lot to being a human, right? We have personality, intellect, emotion. I mean, we have a lot of things in our subtle anatomy that we don't talk about in the West much, but that's a whole other conversation. Right now, I just want us to know that when our minds are not completely still and when our seer is not abiding in its own form, then we have a tendency to identify with the activities of our mind. We think we are our thoughts. And we want to stay away from that. So here's my interpretation. Remember, I encourage you to go to the corresponding blog post for this sutra to see what 7 other authors say or how they translate this sutra, because I want you all to be very versed in this stuff, because this is powerful information. Like I said, this is the foundation of success philosophy that all the modern day success gurus don't know about. This is it. This is ancient knowledge, man. This is not some new age stuff. This is like, look, this has been around for millennia. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is time tested and approved through and through. But anyway, this is how I interpret it. At other times, there is identification with the mind's activities. I put in parentheses, you know, those things that speak to Sutra 1.2 and 1.3, but this is basically it. All right, so if you, like I said, if you haven't had a chance, go to that blog post, read what the other authors have to say about how they translate this sutra, and download the document, take your notes, study, practice. And I'll say it one more time to give you some extra practice, but just listen to it and just say it and repeat it, because our tongues are not coordinated to pronounce a lot of these combinations of sounds, right? So we do have to like repeat this practice over and over and over again. Then one day we'll wake up and magically it's easy, but we have to just do it, you know, just retrain the way that we speak, right? So Vrittisarupyam Ittaratra. All right, y'all, have a great day. Love y'all. And I look forward to reconnecting with you on Sutra 1.5. Have a great one.